with its flagship event, Opspardha. While we don't know how mega this event might be, but for sure it would be racking your brains, exciting and challenging the real business problems too. Opspardha is the representation of challenging business management practices with changing times. With technology getting incorporated into business practices out there, this event is specially curated as a presentation of a marriage between the technology and the domain of operations and supply chain. Let's join this rivalry of Opspardha. Strategy, planning, and prudent decision making is an integral part of any value chain. Coinciding this with the application to our business simulation. I think gone are the days when technology is just an illusion of SCM. Gear up to race against time and unleash your business strategy that you have planned for this event. But when all is said and done, this event would not be possible without our amazing sponsors who have provided us with the real time information of what the actual world is going to be like. We express our hearty gratitude to NoWorks, that is SCM Connect, an optimizing supply chain company, and we also have Mohit Gaba to guide us as to the participants for their strategy. He's been working here as a director at SCM Connect Private Limited and is responsible for business development and operations. He has been seeing the end-to-end application and implementation for the company. This event is honored to have our esteemed judges for the Opspardha OJAS 22. And now we welcome our finalists for this. Of course, this event is incomplete without the amazing teams that have cleared the final round and here are to compete for the national of Opspardha. Let's have a virtual round of applause for all of them and their efforts. So before starting the event, I would like you to walk through the rules. The rules are each of you are requested, as and when I call your names, are requested to raise your hands, and someone of you is supposed to present the doc, the slides that you have prepared. You will be given total of 8 minutes for your presentation and 7 minutes for the Q&A. We'll give you a timestamp that is a reminder at 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and a hard stop at 8 minutes. This will be followed by a 7-minute question and answer round by the judge. So guys, let's start the event. All of the participants who are presenting are requested to turn on their videos. The first team is from IM Ranchi. I would like to request Better Call PVR from IM Ranchi. Team, you can put up your slides and all the very best for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we will putting it.
We don't have the share rights, I think.
Yeah.
Can you please check now? Can you please check again?
Yes, it is here. So my screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. This is team Better Call Privia from IM Ranchi, and we'll be presenting our case now. So just to give you a brief, Canco Limited is a startup catering to the two-wheeler automobile spare market segment, and it mainly deals with 4 major products. The production plant is located in Ahmedabad, and we have 6 depots across the country, along with several other retailers. So the first thing we did is we found out what would be the best locations for these 6 depots. So what factors did we consider into mind while selecting these depot is the volumetric the volume shipment that is going from these cities, and the cost of shipment, that is how much will it cost from moving the product from these particular city to all other places across the country. So after doing our analysis, we came to the conclusion that these 6 cities are the best suited for the locations as our depot. So the first is New Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Chennai, and Ankleshwar. So as said earlier, the reasons for choosing this is the high volume of shipment, that is New Delhi 541, followed by Hyderabad, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, Ankleshwar, and Kolkata. So these has the highest number of shipments going through them, along with the lowest shipment cost. That is, they costed the least. From moving a particular product from this to any other cities or states across the country. So this is the reason why we choose this as the 6 depots, and the cost also will be mentioned in the further slides. So now coming to our first question, what were the levers that are available with Canco Limited to renegotiate it or to renegotiate on the cost? So on what basis we have done is we have written 5 major bases on which Canco Limited can renegotiate the cost. So the first and foremost is definitely the shipment, the 6 depot we have selected, that is New Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, Ankleshwar. So together they contribute to more than 70% of the shipments that is going through all the places. So after selecting these 6 places as our depots, we will definitely it will definitely help in reducing the shipment cost. And the second is the volumetric weight. So in the miscellaneous weight cost section, it was given that for weights, the actual weight or volumetric weight, whichever is higher is considered. Whichever is higher is considered. So we have taken into account that due to this particular reason, the volumetric weight is high in several cases, due to which the cost rises. So if this can be renegotiated to only actual weight basis criteria, this will further help in reducing the cost. Another important point is the difference between charged weight and actual weight, which accounts for more than 12,000 kgs. So which has significantly increased the shipping cost. The amount will also be shared in the further slides. So this has led to increase in the invoice value, and therefore a huge increase in payment. Environmental surcharge is another point for deliveries through New Delhi. As mentioned, there are lots of amount of deliveries going through New Delhi. And there is an environmental surcharge which was around 100 rupees per kg. So this can be removed or renegotiated, because due to high amount of shipment from New Delhi, the environmental surcharge extra, which is a kind of extra charge, increase the total cost. And another is base price value. So the fuel surcharge, which is currently at 20%, should be renegotiated, since the price of diesel has significantly increased in the current scenario. So yes, now we'll be moving to the next slide. Now Prakriti will take on from here.
Moving on to the next question, what should be Canco's approach to lower the logistics cost? We have decided on 6 parameters. Selection of the 6 depots mentioned earlier is the most important factor in reducing logistics cost. Considering the volume of shipments, especially from Delhi and Mumbai, combined accounts for majority of shipments. So making these as depots will definitely reduce the cost. Second, by reducing the difference between charged and actual weight, which is more than 12,000 kgs, we can lower the invoice value significantly. Next, we can renegotiate to reduce the cost of high amount of redelivery charges, currently at 500, and fuel surcharge prices. Holiday pickup prices and ODA charges are also very high and can be renegotiated. We can also reduce the logistics cost by removing the environmental surcharge for deliveries through Delhi, as it is more compared to all other places. Vyom will take up the next question.
Sure. So the next question for our case was like, how much saving can Canco supply chain department can add to Canco's bottom line? So we selected these 6 depots, namely New Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Chennai, and Ankleshwar, on the basis of low amount with respect to shipping to all other places across the country. So the cost mentioned is minimum amount per kg unit shipment of product from the mentioned location to all other locations across the country. With these locations as our depots, we can further reduce the shipment cost. In the previous year, a significant amount of extra charge was being charged with increase in logistics cost, and savings can be done in few areas to reduce the cost. By charging only the actual weight and reducing the miscellaneous cost, we can reduce the amount. For example, if we calculate when we calculated for the previous year, we came to know that the total amount was approximately 34 crores, and the savings that can be done with this 6 depots was approximately 47,31,840. So this was our presentation. Thank you.
Very brief yet a completely inclusive presentation. I would like to now have Mohit sir for his questions and your reviews for the presentation, sir.
Yeah, can you go to the first question, the slide where you have answered the first question? Yeah, the next one. Yeah. So how have you calculated? No, the previous slide. The next slide. This one. Yeah. No, the previous one.
Okay.
Previous one. Yeah.
Sir,
yeah.
this is the first question. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think you have again changed. Yeah. This is the one.
Yes, sir.
So how have you calculated the diesel price to 70 rupees? What's your reference?
So, sir, as mentioned, the previous price that was calculated was the average of the four metros. That is Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Kolkata, which was 55, as mentioned earlier.
Right.
But due to, in the current scenario, the price just increased. For example, in Delhi, it is around 71. And so similar to that, we have taken almost the average of the current the four mentioned metros similarly. So on that basis only, we have considered the current price.
What is your source of this data?
Sir, like we have checked on Google only, like the prices of the prices of diesel in the current 4 metro cities. So, yes, sir.
Okay. And what's your understanding on environmental surcharge? Why is it levied only for Delhi?
Sir, I think because of the pollution that is is there in Delhi, so that is one of the reasons why environmental surcharge is on places for like Delhi only. So this might be one of the reason, and it is caused like.
Can the logistics service provider just simply remove it?
Sir,
and if yes, then what would be your logic to the service provider to remove it?
Sir, seeing the current scenario, of course, the index, the pollution index of Delhi is slightly higher compared to other places, but it is not that a huge difference. But the amount which is cost, which is almost 100 rupees per kgs, so that is quite high.
No, it's not 100 rupees per kg. It is 100 rupees per consignment.
Okay, sorry, 100 rupees per consignment. Sorry. So yes, 100 rupees per consignment. So yes, so that is still quite high, for especially for Delhi, since the majority of deliveries are from here. So yes, it cannot be directly neglected. It can maybe renegotiated to a lower price, which will definitely help in reducing the cost. So renegotiation is I think a better idea would be.
What would be your logic to renegotiate?
Sir, compared to we can keeping in mind the pollution index, we can charge the amount. For example, we can charge for other places also which have the similar pollution index, because it is not that Delhi is the only place which is highly polluted, and not all other places. So
no, so Ritesh, I think there is something called as ECC, Environmental Compensation Charge, right? And that is levied by Government of Delhi.
Okay, sir.
That is levied by Government of Delhi. It's not something that is being levied by service providers. Service providers, because there is a charge levied by Government of Delhi, they have coined their own terminologies to charge to their customers. So people call it environmental surcharge. Some people call it green tax. So every service provider will have their own nomenclature or terminology. But this is the charge which is charged by Government of Delhi and no other state government, and therefore it is applicable in Delhi. So if it is applicable in Delhi, and service providers need to pay, they are charging it back to their customers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
Yes, sir.
what would be your logic to the service providers to remove this surcharge? Any thoughts on that?
Okay. So, sir, as you mentioned, like this is only charged for Delhi. I mean, since it is not calculated for any other cities, like I think it is, still quite high amount that we are charging for Delhi. So, I mean, I can think of that factor only.
You need to think slightly more objectively, because high and low are very relative terms, right? Anyways, coming to this point of volumetric weight, which you are saying currently it is at 7, and you want to renegotiate it to the actual weight. What do you think would happen if you were to ask service providers to remove that 1 CFT is equal to 7 kgs to 1 CFT is equal to 6 kgs or 0 kgs? To make it actual theoretically, once it's on actual weight, so there is no CFT factor. So what do you think logistic service providers would do in that case? They can offer you any CFT. They can offer you on
Yes.
actual weight. They can offer you on 1 CFT is equal to 10 kg. They can offer you on 1 CFT is equal to 7 kgs. But for every CFT factor, they will have their own basic rates. So do you think with 1 CFT, moving from 1 CFT is equal to 7 kgs to 1 CFT is equal to 0 kgs, theoretically, to make it an actual weight basis, what would logistic service providers do? Would they increase their rates? Would they reduce their basic rates, or would they keep it constant?
Sir, then I think they would increase their basic rate, because they have to find a way to earn more profit, and keeping this as actual or
So if they were to increase their basic rates, how would you reduce the cost? It's an increase in cost for them.
Sir, I'm saying that if we remove this CFT thing, and then they will try to increase their basic cost, like this will definitely help in reducing the cost, but they will try to increase the basic cost, I think.
Okay.
Because this will be a negative point from their point of view.
No, it's not a negative point from their point of view. I think it's a learning exercise. Case studies are always good to have a good insight into learning. So I think against each of these factors that you want to tweak, you should try and understand the dynamics behind it. What would happen, and why are they being charged? What is the logic of charging an environmental surcharge? What is the logic of charging diesel fuel price? What is the logic of charging a volumetric weight? And relook at your calculations. I think something grossly wrong in your calculations when you say that the existing cost structure is like 34 CR. So I think you need to relook at the cost structure. Some miss on the calculation front.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for a good attempt. Thank you. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, team. And Mohit sir has correctly portrayed us that how it is a difference between what we think on paper and what is there in the actual presentation. Thank you so much, sir, for bringing the real-time insights and showing the dynamics that we need to keep in consideration. And we hope the other teams also to take those considerations into factor. I would now like to present the second team, that is GTG DMS from IIT Delhi.
Thank you so much.
You can turn on your videos and you can raise your hands, please.
Sure. Thank you, Priyanshi. Good afternoon, Mohit sir.
Hi,
I will present my screen. And Surmit, can you please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So shall we start?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to everyone. So we are presenting a case study in which we were given the case regarding secondary logistics cost reduction for a company. So firstly, I would like to explain about a case overview where the company named Canco Limited was given to us, which was a two-wheeler automobile spare parts aftermarket segment, where we were given a one production plant, 6 depots, and the number of products were 4 for this company. And the case was given for the renegotiation of the costs which was needed for the logistics service provider, and it was given that they have been engaging with only a single logistics provider for now. On the right hand side, we have taken up the assumptions for this case for understanding what we can do. So firstly, we have taken that the demerit charges, public holiday charges, and the redelivery charges were presently not considered as they were value-added costs and charges which can be levied on case-to-case basis. Secondly, freight on collect, value to collect, delivery challan, acknowledgement charges have been considered into the calculations. Lastly, we had to take up the 6 depots which needed to be find out. So we have taken up Delhi, Ankleshwar, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Navi Mumbai, and Chennai based on the volume from the pickup cities, which will be explained in the next slide. And lastly, the invoice value has been considered for the calculation of the freight on value charges, which will be charged on each of the consignment and docket.
So the first question that was there was regarding the levers that will be available for us to renegotiate on the cost. There were 4 things that we considered at that time. Those were FSC, ODA, basic charges, and MCW, that is the minimal chargeable weight. The first suggestion that we have is decreasing the FSC percentage. That is, negotiation on FSC is possible. The idea that we suggest is collaborating with regional carriers. So not the national vendors, but the regional carriers who are catering to a specific region, who know the nitty-gritties of that region, who can easily reach those places with some basic rates which are lesser. We can collaborate with them. We can stay updated about the current market FSC rates by seeing that what the competitors are doing. And we can also ensure the carrier fuel economy, that is, by seeing that the vehicle is easily maintained, the drivers are being paid nicely, and because of that, the logistics providers are, they levy higher fuel surcharge. So that can be brought down by ensuring the carrier fuel economy. The ODA charges per kg can also be reduced. There is a certain amount of buffer in that. And the minimum charge of 750 is quite high. So that can also be reduced. Again, we can prefer a carrier with less ODA or OPA locations. The basic charges, that is the vanilla rates greater than 15, can also be brought down. And we have observed that in the matrix, the Northeast area falls in the above criteria. So a little negotiation on that case can be possible. The MCW can be brought down to nil. So based on my previous experience at Amway as a summer intern, we have had various vendors who did not have any MCW. So they were ready to renegotiate it to 0. We had seen that around 113 out of 1651 instances had MCW in which the minimum weight charged was 15 kg. So a certain cost savings can be achieved here. The graph was plotted on the sum of actual weights from the various 6 pickup cities, and the key insights in that were that the sum of actual weights, the highest sum was there for Delhi. So our focus can remain on that city, and rest of the cities, the sum was at par with each other when we look into the values. Next slide. The second question was that what would be the company's approach to lower the logistics cost? The first thing is that we can certainly see the statistics that are there, the amount of volume that is being transmitted from one place to another, and the PTLs can be combined to FTL, or the LTLs can be combined to a PTL or a FTL based on the demands that we receive, so that higher volumes of goods can be transported from one place to another in less number of lots. So this will lead to reduced value-added services, so that these costs are not levied again and again as we move small lots from one place to another. We can collaborate with multiple vendors. When this happens, we know the market rates, a negotiation can be there because competitive pricing takes place and the reliability is simply increased. If one vendor fails, maybe we can reach out to another vendor for urgent deliveries. The third thing that we've already mentioned is collaborate with local players, because they have a faster turnaround time. They need us as much as we need them. And a cost saving can also be received, because when we compare national vendors like FedEx or Delivery, they charge a little bit higher rate. than the local players. We can also practice co-loading with relevant vendors. As already explained, in my previous experience, I had learned that when you engage with a logistics provider who has already been there in this domain, if he has already catered to an automobile segment, he knows the nitty-gritties of that segment, and your material can be co-loaded with another brand's material and it can be transported. So that leads to economical pricing. And finally, we can also negotiate on redelivery charges. We have seen several tenders in which the first 2 attempts can be free, 3 attempts can be free, followed by a minimal charging. So that can also be an option. Next slide.
Okay, so this is the last slide. We were asked about how much savings can Canco's supply chain department add to Canco's bottom line. So in this, we have calculated and we have done certain modifications into the calculations and then find out that what will be the savings. So what are the changes that we propose and we considered for our calculation was firstly at the base rate, as Surmi told, that we found out that Northeast areas were actually charging higher and greater than 15. So we have reduced those costs by 1 value. So for those where the basic rates were greater than 15. Similarly, the FSC percentage was taken as 20%, which we believe can be brought down easily by negotiation with the vendor. And we considered this value because it contributed a lot to the total cost. So we reduced it from 20% to 15%. The DFS matrix was 3:2, which we propose can be reduced at least to 3:1. And lastly, the FOB percentage has been halved, considering the minimum charges to be the same, that is 50 rupees. So after considering only these changes, we found out that the total savings which will come out to be was 16.22% in only the logistics of the company from the data provided. These were calculated by considering only the above 4 changes. Apart from that, all the other assumptions and other factors were kept constant, which can again further be negotiated to get better results. And lastly, that we considered these factors only because these were, we believe, major contributors into the total cost which we incurred for the logistics. This was the formula that we used for calculating total cost, where we considered the basic rates, we multiplied it with the charged weight, then we added the ODA on case-to-case basis, then we added the freight value on the invoice value, depending on the invoice value, then we added the freight to collect value to collect delivery challan acknowledgement costs. Lastly, we calculated the environmental surcharge on again case-to-case basis, whether the delivery is to Delhi or not. And after calculating all this, we multiplied it with the FSC multiplying factor, and then we found out the total cost from this. So lastly, always the main part, which is the learning and the inference that we had from the case study, that regional players obviously provided the advantage of having the market knowledge, where they added the flexibility to the whole game, along with them being proactive and offering personalization for the customers. And lastly, they have a much better TAT and having a very less FABS charges compared to having a single logistics service provider for the company. Secondly, we understood that having a multiple vendor gives a competitive pricing for us and helps in getting improved reliability, where we can reach out to them in case of urgency and can rely on them in case of pandemic and unseen circumstances. And always the regulation of the major cost contributions will help us saving costs in case we opt for multiple vendors. Lastly, the qualitative measures, where on-time placement of vehicles, good conditions of good, and quick reporting of delays and proper documentation will help in proper work. So this was all from our side. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. Yeah, just stick to the slide. Can you put it on the slideshow?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have given a lot of qualitative stuff, Sayed and Surmi. What is lacking in this is a quantitative number-based approach. So my first question is, what was the total cost in as a scenario?
Sorry, sir.
What was the total cost that you arrived in as a scenario?
From the given data, sir.
Yeah.
So it was roughly around 15 crore, I believe. And after the savings, it came down to 11 crore, if I'm right. So can I show the Excel in which we worked out this calculation?
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand the approach. So out of the 15 crores of cost, what were the top 3 cost contributors?
Sir, we found out that FSC, since it was being levied on the basic amount itself, like fixed 20% on each of the values. So we believe that we found out that this was one of the major contributors. Lastly, apart from that, basic rate we took because the Northeast area, we took this just because we believed that the negotiation will be very easy in case we opt for regional as well as multiple vendors in this case. And apart from this, FSC, FOV, and basic rates. Because the value to collect, freight to collect, delivery challan acknowledgement, we consider 200, 200, and 100 in each case before and after as well. Though we suggest that we can reduce it, these were definitely at least 20% of the cost. But again, we didn't touch it because it was a fixed cost on each docket. And that is why that can be further reduced any day. Means 16.22.
So my question was, Sayyid, I'll repeat my question. My question is very simple and straightforward. What were the top 3 cost contributors?
Okay, so I'll say FSC, FOV, and then the addition of the fixed value charges which we calculated, which were freight on value, freight to collect, freight to collect, value to collect, and delivery challan acknowledgement.
So you were saying that fuel surcharge is being levied on the basic freight, right?
Yeah, on the total cost. Yeah.
On the total cost or on the basic?
Sorry, sir? Total cost.
Was it on the total cost or on the base freight?
Total.
Total cost.
Was it given in the case it's on base freight, or you have assumed that it will be on total cost?
So we have assumed it to be on the total.
That is the formula that we have used. So basically we calculated all the sum, then we added the FSC multiplier. This was again, sir, from the past experience that we had from this type of, means basically we read certain contracts, and obviously that's what we told during the internship also. She had this exposure of working in the same work. So
what is the difference between a B2b logistics contract versus a B2c logistics contract? What is the fundamental difference? Because you mentioned somewhere, Sukhmeet, that you were part of Amway as an organization during your internship. So what would have been the key differences between this case and Amway? Wherein things like you have mentioned, minimum chargeable rate could be reduced to 0. Would a service provider in the B2B space agree that easily?
Yes, sir. So, sir, that is the difference that comes when you engage with a leading provider, like, as I already told, FedEx or Delivery, which have a very high value-added services, and some regional providers. I mean, very small vendors, like some of them who have an expertise in only North or in some places like Delhi. So in that cases, yes, they had reduced the MCW to 0 only, sir. So the difference between B2B and B2C, I have seen contracts related to B2B. There is a very, the segment is very competitive. So the basic rates that have been charged in this contract that we were shown in this case were quite high. So when I did a comparison on the experience that I had with the regional vendors, the basic rates can definitely be brought down. The ODA charges per kg were also high. So rupees 4 per kg was on a higher note. And when you develop a good relationship with the regional carriers, because they need your business and we need them for a proper delivery, so they are ready to negotiate. So yeah, that is the major difference that I see. And any company who is operating pan India, they want that their materials should be reached at the right time. So that is why Amway as an organization also engaged with multiple vendors who have the relevant expertise in the relevant zones. So it helped them in increasing their delivery services, improving their SLA. And this was also done because I had interviewed various top executives of ITC and Mondelez. So they were also following a similar approach of trusting the regional carriers to bring the prices down.
So, Sukhmeet, my sincere suggestion and feedback to you is, please understand the business model of service providers, logistic service providers in the B2B space. So even if they were to agree, theoretically, if they were to agree on 0 minimum chargeable rate, what would be the impact on service levels? If you know their business model, you'll come to know, yeah, your service in that domain is going to fall flat, and there are intrinsic reasons for that. And what is the contribution of these 113 odd consignments if you were not to negotiate on that? So there is always a trade-off.
Yeah.
There is always a trade-off equation that you need to look at. Okay, my last question is on fuel surcharge. What is the current diesel rate that you have considered?
So the average for the calculation we have considered is 75.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was
3:1 is the
source of data?
Okay, so we calculated the current diesel prices for the metro cities, and for the other cities, the 2 cities, we found out that the minimum diesel price was 79 for the cities which were our delivery.
What was your source of data?
So from Google only. We Googled all the diesel prices.
Any specific site that you looked at within Google?
No, sir. I believe basically two, three sites, not a fixed one, because I believe all the 104 locations were not available on a single site. I tried that, but like 60-70% I found out one site, but the others were like available on random websites.
So basically,
not a fixed one.
Economic Times was also our source, and
Yeah.
some of the data was available on the traditional websites like Bank Bazaar or
Yes.
Good Returns or the news
you can
websites.
you can go to any of the OMC oil marketing companies website and check the price. In fact, IOCL is a very good source because IOCL has the maximum presence in terms of retail outlets. That's one. Then there is a very standard site which most of the corporates look at is Map My Fuel Price, something like that. If you Google it, you'll find that. So you can track not just the current prices, but also the trends of different types of fuels across different cities.
Sure, sir. Yes, noted.
Yeah. By the way, I just Googled diesel price in Mumbai. I'm sure one of the 4 metros you would have taken is Mumbai. So current diesel price in Mumbai as on 12th of Feb is 94.13. So I don't know where this number of 70, 75 is coming from. Anyways, thanks. I think bring in more quantitative analysis. You also suggested a lot of qualitative initiatives, but end of the day, the question was, what would be the impact of all those qualitative measures, and what should one do? This is more quantification of the data.
Actually, sir, I just wanted to add that, like in the last slide, we've appended the Excel sheet on which we had worked upon. So it was kind of, difficult to bring it in on the slide. But yeah, the calculations have been done and we've attached that in the sheet.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
To Team GTG, the efforts are really appreciated from your end, and all the very best for the results. I would now like to call upon the next team for the day, that is Team Outliers from SIOM. All the participants from the team are requested to turn on their videos.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So may I start?
You guys can start. Yeah.
Yes. So good afternoon to one and all present here. Our team Outliers is here to present the case study on Canco Industries. I, Nikhil Biani, along with my team members Ayush Mathur and Vikas Chaudhary, would be presenting this case. The deliverables of this case study required us to lower the logistic cost of the Canco supply chain. So the flow of presentation would include the as-is state of the company, assumptions, problems, and solutions. So to give a brief about the company, Canco Limited is a startup catering to two-wheeler automobile spare parts. It is a subsidiary of a large business group, and the customers are spread across 24 states and 104 cities. It produces and supplies 4 products, namely J13, J20, J22, and J23. We were given the dispatch details for the last 1 year. The company dispatched a total of 1,651 deliveries, which amounted to 34 crores of invoice value. Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra had the highest consumption of 11% and 10% respectively. Now we'll just have a look at the assumptions that we took in order to solve the case study. The goods from Ahmedabad factory are directly transported to the delivery points. The goods that are returned from any city except the depots and the factory are considered as returns. Pickup cities with highest invoiced and the highest weight are taken as depots, and the parent company of Canco requires similar resources to carry out the business processes. Now, based on this, the total outside delivery area resulted in 8% of the total deliveries, which contributed to 6% of the total value. Also in returns, 11% of the total deliveries were considered as returns, which amounted to 9% of the total value. Now, based on the third assumption that the pickup cities with highest invoiced and highest weights were taken as depots, we came to the conclusion that there, we were given the option that there were 6 depots, and the 6 depots can be seen in the map. That is Delhi, Kolkata, Ankleshwar, Hyderabad, Navi Mumbai, and Chennai respectively, with Delhi contributing to about 29% of the invoiced value as the pickup city. Now Vikas will be taking forward.
Thank you, Nikhil. After thorough observation of the case and the data provided, we have come up with 3 major problems which needs to be addressed. The first one is inconsistent allocation of pickup cities. Scrutinizing the database which is given, we observe that there is an inconsistency in the allocation of the pickup cities for the demand. Orders delivered from a depot far away from the delivery city leads to higher cost for delivering of products. For example, around 39% of total invoice value of Delhi is catered from Navi Mumbai, which should rather be fulfilled from a nearby depot such as Delhi itself. The second problem which we have witnessed is the difference between actual weights and the charged weights. Even after considering the condition of minimum chargeable weight of 15 kg, we still find that 196 invoices are present with a difference between actual weight and charged weight still being there. We have observed that a docket which has been picked up from Navi Mumbai and delivered to Rajkot, where the actual weight is 4 kg but has been charged with a weight of 102.5 kgs. This difference between both the weights are about 2400% of the actual weight. Even after considering all the conditions for additional charges, this seems worth noticing. The third problem which we have witnessed is on the returns part. We have observed that there are a total of 303 dockets which fall under the category of return dockets. According to our assumptions, this accounts for a total of 11% of the total dockets. This also accounts for about 9% of the total invoice value. Out of these dockets, pickup city Navi Mumbai has a significant number of orders, so a higher amount of returns are coming from this depot, and thus this problem should be considered. Further recommended solutions will be taken care by Ayush. Over to you, Ayush.
In this unprecedented times, as most of the companies are facing the issues and are under pressure to sustain the margins, and it is the same with the Canco being a startup company. So here we have rectified some of the solutions which will bring some changes in the working methodology of Canco and will bring a huge cost saving for their company. So first of all, we have identified that they shall require to do the 3PL vendor categorization, in which they should try to classify and review their vendors on regular basis so that they can develop a long-term and short-term partnership. Here they can also use the help of Kraljic model, where they can classify their vendors as well as their retailer location on the basis of leveraging items or strategic item or bottleneck item, which will definitely help them to deliver their goods accordingly. Then if we look after the complete last year data in Northeast region, comparatively, the average basic freight cost is high for the Assam region, and the requirement from their region is also high. So we can develop a new vendor at that particular region which knows that particular area, and we can reduce that cost because he will be delivering at that particular area from a huge times. Then we can have a strategic alliance. Being a subsidiary of a large business group in India, Canco shall have alliance with all its sister concerned companies, so that all the suppliers in terms of logistics are already developed, and they must be getting a cost negotiation every year, and every year they are getting cost reduction, so they can grab the opportunities with them in all the different regions of the India, and they can put those logistic players in that particular market. Then coming to the optimization, we as discussed in the last slide by Vikas, that what currently is facing, like we are delivering our goods from Navi Mumbai to Delhi or any far away place when there is inventory and depot available at the nearest place. So we need to develop an integrated software implementation so that we can connect the nearest depot, and transportation model can be smooth with the help of nearest depot and nearest inventory. In case we require some goods at Uttar Pradesh, we do not bring it from Maharashtra. As it will further enhance our logistic cost, we will directly ship it from Delhi, or in case that particular part inventory is not available there, we will move to the next nearest place. Next slide, please. So coming to the one of the fact which we have looked after, that in that particular region of Gujarat and Maharashtra, we are having the manufacturing company as well as we are having Mumbai depot, and in between there is a Ankleshwar depot. So we have figured out that if we can shut down the Ankleshwar depot and we can situate our depot in the region of western region of Uttar Pradesh, it will be helping to cater the demand of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, as we have seen that 11% of total revenue is collected from Uttar Pradesh and is responsible for total of 150 orders. Also, a higher number of deliveries and ODA in Uttar Pradesh definitely justifies that we need to set up an additional depot so that directly we can cater the demand. Also, right now we are catering the demand of that region from Delhi, and there are ODA charges since 2015, which is inapplicable from Delhi government due to the high pollution, as well as due to the higher diesel rates, which has reached about 89 average all over the India. So we can reduce that traveling distance, and because of that higher revenue region. Further, last but not the least solution from our side is there is around high returns from different depots to Ahmedabad or different retailers, which we see that these are due to some quality defects found at their end. So we need to put a quality check at every depot as well as tight quality inspection at our plant, so that we ensure that 2% which is getting rejected or getting back to Ahmedabad for rework, we can get it rectified and that defects can be reduced, so that our overall cost can be reduced and this optimized, all the transportation problem can be optimized. So thank you so much, and this is the solution from our side. Thank you, sir.
So thanks, Team Outliers. I think you took a very holistic approach to solve this case. You talked about network redesign. You talked about the product quality and how to reduce defectives. But typically, it's more of a supply chain head's job. The case study was revolving more around how do we reduce specifically logistics cost, one particular cost within the supply chain domain. So I'm happy that you looked at all the aspects. However, coming back to an analysis on the logistics front, yes. What was your as cost? What was the cost that you considered for the current situation, as per the current cost structure?
Sir, for particularly for the fuel charge, we had considered
total cost.
Total ones.
So for all the invoices to be catered, what was the as
It was coming around at 15 crores.
Also, we were not sure about the total cost since there were a lot of assumptions to be taken. Like we couldn't take the public holiday and everything.
How come you guys are coming to that number of 15 crores or 30 crores? What was the total invoice value? What was the total invoice value in the case?
Sir, it was around 34 crores of the total goods which were being delivered in that particular area of the that was invoice value.
Yeah. So do you think for selling goods for 34 crores, can any company afford a logistics cost of 15 crores?
No, sir. No, sir. We didn't actually.
Really wrong?
No, so we didn't actually calculate the logistic cost since there were a lot of parameters and we had to neglect many parameters for that.
So I think that should be the starting point for calculating. No?
Yes,
if you were to do any cost reduction, you should know what is my current cost.
Yes, sir.
And I think with the given data, you could calculate it with 97-98% accuracy.
Sir, basically we had considered that zone-wise charges for each of the logistic cost, and then we had added the different parameters depending upon the situation. Like in case of Delhi, we had considered the ODA charges, and if there is demurrage, and accordingly then we have calculated. Invoice value, we had considered that it is the total invoice value of the parts which are getting delivered.
So Delhi is not ODA. Delhi is for environmental surcharge.
Sorry, environment. Yes, sir.
Surcharge.
Yes, sir.
But I think the first thing that anyone should be doing is to calculate the current cost structure, and then look at Pareto's. Right?
Sir, what change we had in,
because whole lot of data was provided, and it was expected that one would calculate the current cost. Although I am happy with your overall presentation and the holistic approach, but again, the quantification is really missing. What would you do? You know, where do we stand as of now? Where would we stand after taking all the course corrective actions? How would you convince the logistics service provider to reduce? What would be the logic of or rationale behind such negotiations?
Sir,
so
although
there was also
yes,
data provided around the product profile. How did you make use of that data?
So we thought the data was used to calculate the volumetric data so that we could then use it if it was less than 7 cubic meter. 7 CPM.
7 cubic meter.
7 units. 7 units.
I think. Okay. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
basically we had calculated the difference between the current price in the freight, like it was with respect to 55, and what is the increased price of diesel. Then we have calculated the different zones, location, and their particular prices, and with that particular percentage we have calculated all the data. Like and with respect to currently what we have seen, that actual weight is something different and charge weight is something different. So why that is happening, and we will advise that logistics supplier that if he is using a large vehicle, so if we can reduce that particular vehicle, and then we can send that our goods to that retailer.
So Ayush,
Yes,
do
sir.
you think it was a case for full truckload or a part truckload?
Sir, basically it was for full truckload, but seeing the different scenarios in the given year plan, we identified that this could be the case here also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, team Outliers. Mohit sir, you definitely leave us pondering upon the solutions and the feasibility of our problem, of the solution that the teams have provided in the practical world. For the next team that I would like to call is Netizens, that is, of course, from College Niti. All the very best, team.
Yeah, thank you.
Team, we cannot see the other participant.
Charan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Pramod.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay.
please raise your hand, Pramod?
Just a minute. Yeah, I raised my hand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. As I'm presenting, that's why I'm unable to raise my hand. So. Okay.
Oh, your video is not visible, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're visible. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, this PJMR. Today we are from NITI Mumbai. We are presenting the case study on optimization of secondary logistics of the company called Canco. And stepping into this particular presentation, the problem statement was Canco Limited is a startup which is catering the needs of the customer, particularly in the aftermarket business. And they are looking for optimizing their secondary logistics as it is carrying a huge chunk of their particular income. And the margins in that particular logistic network is also need to be improvised. And the deliverables, what we planned was, our intention was to streamline the existing secondary logistics and also to propose a new network to enhance both the efficiency and responsiveness of the particular supply chain. And at the end of the day, we will need to negotiate the existing logistics price with the service provider so that the entire logistics cost will get optimized. And these are the existing facilities, a production plant and 6 depots and 4 SKUs are being served by the particular company. And before getting into both the qualitative and quantitative approach, we took the necessary and convenient assumptions for this case study. One is the production capability is assumed to be higher, so there is no disturbances between the demand and supply. The production is way higher than the demand which is expected in the market. And there are no difficulties in designing and operations like jamming or congestion in the ports or the network, or those are all ignored. We assumed everything is going at a smooth pace. And all the value added charges which are mentioned in the case are considered before we getting at a figure of the logistics, secondary logistics reduction. And also, particularly this being a aftermarket business, the reverse logistics cost is also a critical component. But here, based on the invoice value and the total logistics cost of the forward logistics, we neglected the role of the secondary logistics in the optimization. And the inefficiencies which we had identified in the existing system are the logistics system network is primarily operating in silos, and there is need to be some aggregation and the need to be revamping of the structure. And there is no differentiation as of now between the inter and intrastate transportation. And particularly the logistics price contract, we need to work on whether to convert it into FTL or LTL based on the weight and volume of the given SKUs. And as you can from the past year data, there is a huge variation in the consignments. There is a consignment with 1 kg to 4,000 kg and invoice value from 15,000 to even 1 rupee is there. So based on all these nuances, we need to develop a suitable strategy for that. And the single strategy and approach for all the locations are identified. And there is we observed the lack of collaboration between the different entities and different facilities. For that, we created the this flowchart of the operation. This is a quantitative approach, and in the coming slides, we discuss it in detail how the things are actually framed. Initially, we identified the depots, and then we categorized what is the delivery locations. And then we look about where are the pain points, where we need to capitalize, and we can try to negotiate with the logistic service provider. And the strategies we have designed, and at the end of the presentation, we came up with the cost calculations. And one thing we need to emphasize here are the entire assumptions are made in such a way that as it is secondary logistics, so majority of the role will be of the service provider. So as a company, we need to align our business model with the logistic service providers facilities so that we can approach them for the cost negotiation. So in that manner, we propose with the 3 different categories.
Yeah, I'll take it forward from here, Pramod. So as the first step, as Pramod said, we have identified the depots. So primarily based on the volume of transaction in that particular year. So these are the list of depots that we have identified. And in the next step, we have categorized the destinations. So the delivery cities. So that is also based on the volume of transactions from each depot. So the aim of this categorization is to achieve different contract prices for different categories. And so instead of having a uniform price for all the transactions. So if you look at the categories, the category 1 consists of cities, between which the number of transactions are greater than 100 in a year. And since the transactions are above 100, the demand is high and stable in this category of cities. And we believe that the contract price can be lowered by 20% from the existing prices. Also, we observe that in each city, the goods are being transported to multiple locations. So in this scenario, the cost can be lowered by having a central warehouse in the city and transporting all the goods from the depots to this central warehouse. And from there, from this warehouse, the goods can be transported to the inner locations of the city. So this will lead to better utilization of the transportation vehicle. That is, more FTL shipments can be achieved and hence lower cost. Yeah, Pramod, you can move to the next slide. Now, if you look at the category 2 and category 3, the category 3 transactions, the category 2 consists of the combination of cities which have the transaction between 30 and 100. And in category 3, it shows the combination of cities which have transactions between 10 and 30 in a year. So for the category 2, the transactions are still high and stable. So we feel that the price per kg can be reduced by 15% for these cities, for the cities in this category. And then for the category 3 and rest of the cities where the transaction per year are fluctuating, we have come up with 2 strategies. The first one is temporal aggregation of demand. If you look at the weight of goods that are being transported, it has a huge variation. It is as low as 15 kg and it is going as high as 4,000 kg. So this does not allow the logistics provider to give us any price discount since the demand from our side is not stable. So we thought that temporal aggregation can be used to stabilize the demand to a certain extent. And this can be achieved by delaying shipments or sending them prior to due dates to achieve aggregation. Of course, this involves a lot of factors like the production capabilities of the company and the flexibility and the constraints from the customer end as well. So the next strategy is consolidation of the regional hubs. So if you look at the current network, the transportation of goods is being done in silos. And this adds to the cost, especially when demand at each of these cities is low. Instead, if we can consolidate the demand across cities and maintain a regional hub, it is possible to achieve FTL shipments and thus lower cost per unit. So from these regional hubs, the goods can then be transported to other regional hubs and then to the final destination using local transportation and milk runs. So in this way, by establishing regional hubs, we feel that the logistics cost can be minimized compared to the existing network. Yeah, Pramod, you can take up the next slide.
Yeah, and here I am presenting what is the optimization after doing the optimization. What is the change in the logistics cost? And here what I am projecting in front of you is only the secondary logistics, and that too only the logistics charges. Here it was not involving any of the invoice cost, because as we are optimizing the logistics, and then there is no point in taking that percentage. So that's why we took up the logistics cost before adding the value added services and after adding the value added charges. And with that existing contract and with the proposed contract, the savings we have obtained was 6% to 5.8 to 6.2. That is on average, you can take it as 6%. And one thing to emphasize here was this 6% is only on the secondary logistics. And if you further optimize the primary logistics from the manufacturing plant to the depot, then the total optimization will go a next step in the next level. And the main, combining all the 3 categories and the solutions which we had proposed, the bottom line was to make our business and our facilities in such a way that will make the logistics contractor also beneficial, and thereby we can approach them for the price negotiation. And also, as we are provided with a matrix of the rates between from station to the to station of the per kg rates, by proposing these 3 categories and this new model, we can go with the proposed negotiated rates with a 20% to 15% reduction in the per kg cost. And by complete consolidation, the entire reduction cost will be at the ballpark of 6%. And these are the extra suggestions which we proposed on a broader note. Rather than limiting the number of depots to 6, as we can see throughout the India, there are the transactions are going on. So by improving the number of depots, we can furthermore help the logistics service provider, thereby he can reduce the entire logistics cost. And also the reverse logistics is also very important criteria in the aftermarket business. And also, as these days the fuel charges are rising day by day, so there need to a strategic decision need to be taken, in which you need to take the comparison cost between what is the logistics cost and what is the charge of setting up a new facility. Because on a longer run, rather than going with a single warehouse, it's better to set up the new warehouses, because in a 2 to 3 years of longer run, our entire fixed cost will get back on the logistics cost basis. And also by doing the route optimization by using AI/ML techniques, also further optimization, there is a scope of doing that. And hereby we will end our presentation and open us for the questionnaire. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, team netizens. So Pramod, you made two very contradictory points.
Sir.
In your this suggestion slide. So one you said was reduce the number of depots so that you could service directly from manufacturing location to the customer location. And at the same time, you also said do a evaluation on why spend so much on transportation and increase the number of depots.
Sir, sorry,
so
if I communicate.
Yeah, okay.
If I communicated, I said we need to improve the number of depots, sir, not to reduce that. Even in the first point also I mentioned, as the depots limited to 6, we need to improve that.
Basically increasing the number of depots.
That is the same is,
the number of depots.
Yes, sir. The same is justified with the cost comparison of increasing the facilities.
So what will be the impact of on the overall supply chain cost components if you were to increase the number of depots? What will be the decision for it?
Yes, sir. For that, I mentioned the word strategic decision. By that, what I'm trying to say was, rather it's based on the orders which you are getting, the volume of the transactions. Based on that, if you compare with the what is the logistics cost with the existing and with the proposed, thereby we can take a break even between them and then go for setting up. And also in the initial stages, rather than completely constructing a warehouse, it's better to take it on a rental basis. And as a pilot project, if you observe on that particular location how the things are working out, and then after 3 to 4 months of
Pramod, Pramod, what I'm trying to ask is, there are various components of supply chain costs, right? If I were to consider the entire supply chain cost, it could be broken into quite a few components like logistics cost, warehouse cost, inventory cost, lost sales, obsolescence cost, and so on and so forth. So if I were to increase the number of depots, from, let's say, 6 to 10, what would be the impact on these cost components of supply chain?
Right, sir. Sir, in that particular list of the cost, as this is a automobile aftermarket business, so there is no point of the obsolescence or any loss of the value due to the carrying, because as these are the metal parts, so the shelf life will be much higher. So that thing cost we can ignore. And also, as you had rightly pointed out, with the increasing number of depots, the running cost and the operational cost will increase, but thereby we can do this reduction in the logistics, so that will balance. That's what our solution provides.
Yeah, Pramod. So to answer your question exactly, if we increase the number of depots, primarily we were looking at if you look at the existing network, the number of the number of transportations or the number of transactions are huge. I mean, from there are transactions from number of cities to different cities. So what we have thought is that if we can increase the number of regional hubs or number of depots, obviously that the inventory charges and the facilitation and the facility, the establishment of facility charges are also there. But what we have thought is that the transportation charges could come down basically, since we are consolidating the demand at the cities and getting it to the regional hub, and from there, if we can ship to the other regional hub, we can ship it as an FTL instead of small LTL from different cities. So there, we might be achieving reduction in logistics cost, but it would definitely add to the inventory cost and the facilities cost.
So let's break the logistics cost into two parts. One is a primary logistics cost from plant to these depots, and second is the secondary logistics cost from depot to customer. Right. Will both the components reduce? Will one of the components reduce?
Yes, sir. First component from the manufacturing to the depot, the cost will increase, and from the secondary logistics, there will be the reduction. But I mean, as these depots the are to be placed, and I mean, with the increase in the depots, the manufacturing hubs also need to be improved. Then only on a broader note, the entire logistics will be reduced, as you had pointed.
So the depots have to be, strategically located so that, the incoming charges
No,
and the outgoing charges.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said, to undergo this this kind of an operations, the existing structure or the existing logistics cost is 75 lakhs.
Yes, sir. So that is considering the transaction from the depots. We did not take the entire transactions into consideration.
Agreed. So from depots to end customers, including all basic freight and value-added charges, it would be 75 lakhs, right?
Yes, sir.
How confident are you on this calculation? Because some other team said 15 crores, another team said 22 crores.
Sir, in the value-added charges, we did not consider all of them, sir. We considered the ODA charges because with the rest of the charges, we were not clear as to where to add them. But what we found is that it is, insignificant or very small value compared to the logistics cost that we, projected.
So which all value-added components, or apart from basic freight, which other costs did you consider?
Sir, we considered the ODA charges and the environmental tax charges, and based on the weight, there is one more component was given surcharges. All these components were included. And sir, to your prior question, earlier teams had proposed 15 crore or maybe 16%. That is, if you calculate on the invoice value. Here we have taken the logistics part alone separate and shown the exact bottom line reduction in the core logistics component, not the entire invoice reduction. Because as there is a huge fluctuation in the invoice value, as I pointed, from 1 rupee to 15,000, so that does not make a clear picture about how the logistics is optimized. So that's why here I had clearly mentioned only the logistics before value addition and after value addition, and existing contract and proposed contract.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Team Netizen. It was clearly a very healthy discussion, and you have got amazing point of views for the case study. The last team that we have for today is Team Phoenix, that is from BG from IIT Kharagpur. I request you to turn to raise your hands. And you can start the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. We are team.
Share the screen.
Yeah. Just a minute.
Are you able to see the screen, Vijay?
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Okay, sure.
Okay, shall we begin?
Yep.
Okay, so once again, good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Phoenix from VGSM IIT Kharagpur, and we are here to present our solution for the secondary logistics cost reduction case. To give you a background, it is about Canco Limited, which is a startup catering to the two-wheeler automobile spare parts aftermarket segment, and they are here to reduce their logistics cost. Moving on to the next slide. Now let us cut to the chase and discuss the three objectives. So the first objective is to identify activities where we could renegotiate the cost and save money. Then to develop strategies and approaches to reduce the logistic cost. And finally, quantify the savings that we will have. So there are two key observations that we noted while doing an as-is analysis. So the first is the basic consignment rates per kg charged incurred different costs between different cities and states. And the second is the 18% of consignments in the data are below 65 kg. Moving on to the assumptions, the first assumption that we took is that the demand or the charged weight would follow the same trend year on year across all the routes as per the data provided to us. Second assumption is that we have taken the price of diesel as 67 rupees, which we got as the previous year price of 55 rupees was taken equivalent to 2017 year price in India. And the third assumption is the value-added services will be taken into consideration on case-to-case basis. And finally, we have assumed the profit margin in auto spare parts between 15 to 20%. And finally, we have identified the following depots based on frequency and the volume operated from these cities. One of the main things will be kept in mind while preparing the strategy is that the logistics provider should not incur loss at any point, and it should be a win-win deal. Moving on to the next slide.
Vijay, next slide. Yeah. So now coming on to the approach, we see that first of all, we need to after a good analysis of as is situation, we estimated the cost, the basic cost without which are under the additional charges table. Then later we identified the routes which are between which are between cities and different states, and to find the best possible routes where the cost can be changed. I am talking about the variable also and also fixed. Okay, we try to see where we can change each prices, and then see how the different value of value added services can be leveraged. For just example, like freight to collect can be used in for some consignments or let's say in some areas, and in the finally we combine all the charges between them and compare the best possible charges which are including the value added and also the additional charges, and overall to find the lowest possible cost in all the combinations. Just for the example, like we before the our analysis, the first one, the total fixed charges we got was 86 lakh 54,000, and the value added services charges were almost 6 lakh 48,872. Now we will move on to the solution.
Yes, when we looked at the strategies that we used, four key points came out. First of all, we negotiated charges for some of the routes in such a way that 5 routes will ask the logistics provider to decrease the cost by 1 rupee, and in all the rest of the routes, the logistics provider is free to increase the charges by 0.5 rupees. This leads to a huge impact for us, and also the logistics provider gets to earn extra in case the rest of the you can say 80 to 100 routes are used. Next, we use the free storage value added service whenever a public holiday came, so that when the charged weight was less than 65 kgs, we would be able to gain advantage due to the cost reduction. After that, whenever there was a delivery failure and the invoice value was less than 10,000, we would ask the customer to pay for us. So in such cases, we'll be using the freight to collect feature. After that, for all the invoices which were less than 10,000, we would transfer the cost of the overall freight to the customer. This was because of the assumed margin of 15 to 20% profit, and for invoices which are less than 10,000, we are definitely going to lose money. And the routes which we calculated for to check the highest amount of activity are as follows: N1, N2, and N1, and N1, S1, 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 S2, and S1, S3. And in these 5 routes, we were able to decrease the cost by 1 rupee. The initial matrix that we used is this, which was calculated for 67 rupees. And after that, we were able to decrease the prices by 1 rupees in these 5 places. And rest of the places, you can see the charges are being increased by 0.5 rupees. And the rest of the charges, VAS charges, wherein we have asked the customer to pay, the freight to collect option is being used. So you can see the VAS charges is lesser initially, and after that it is more. But overall, the total fixed charges are decreased because we are asking the customer to pay in case the order value is less than 10,000. And overall, we were able to obtain these savings. And the logistics provider is not harmed in terms of profit at any point, since the freight charges which he will collect with us, instead of that he'll be collecting with the customer. So these are our main strategies for decreasing the logistics cost for Canco Limited. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Team Phoenix. So What was the logic of taking diesel price of 67 rupees?
Yes, so we checked the current price of diesel, which was close to 87, and the Excel said that the previous year price for which the rates are prepared was 55 rupees. So such a huge jump in diesel prices is very unrealistic. So we checked the prices when in India the prices were 55 rupees, the average price of Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata, and exactly a year after that, what were the prices in India? We checked the historic prices and then chose 67 rupees.
Okay. So typically what happens is, from your learning perspective, is, the contracts are run for multiple years, and probably this contract would have been signed when the diesel price was 55 rupees and could have been as long as 5 odd years back. And those contracts keep on running with the mutual agreements in between on the cost increase or whatever. But typically the base fuel prices don't change in those renegotiations.
Yes, sir. We will keep this in mind. But it said, the Excel said past 1 year, so that's why we assume that immediately in the
there could be some so that's why I wanted to understand the logic behind 67 rupees. You said something, but I missed on that. Okay.
Yes.
So you are saying the total cost before. Just go to the previous slide.
Yes, sir.
Wherein you show. Yeah. So 86.5 plus 6.5, which is around 93 lakhs.
Yes, sir.
Right. 93 lakhs is the total cost. So what is this fixed charge? Is the basic fuel basic rate?
Yes, sir. Basic rates, as in the per kg rate is there.
Per kg rate.
Okay. 150 rupees is there of docket per docket. Then there is also an insurance charge fixed.
So that is all included in fixed charges.
Yes, fixed charges.
Okay. And the
VAS charges,
what all is included in gas?
In VAS charges, we included wherever the invoice value is greater than 1 lakh, we included the delivery chalan acknowledgement charges, and wherever the ODA was required, we applied the charges appropriately, and then as in out of delivery area charges. And then wherever redelivery was required, what we did for redelivery is that since in the 1600 odd invoices, we didn't know where redelivery will happen. So using a random number generator, what we did was between we took a 5% rate of redelivery. So between 1 to 1651, we generated 85 numbers, and in all those invoices, we levied the redelivery charges. So those charges are also added appropriately to calculate the VAS. And while calculating the optimized charges, wherever redelivery was happening for an invoice value of less than 10,000, we charge the customer, as in we would pay the
right to collect.
Yes, sir.
So there are so many at least 10 to 15 components which are given, which would add up to the overall logistics cost, right?
Yes.
Now,
sir.
what are the you said for renegotiation you just tweaked one component of basic freight.
Yes,
you said these are the top 3 lanes and we would like to renegotiate by 50 paisa or 1 rupee on those lanes and increase in certain other lanes where
Yes,
the
sir.
impact was not so high.
Yes,
So
sir.
one such factor that you identified was lane specific approach on basic charges, basic freight charges. Any other component you think could have impacted immensely to the cost?
Definitely, we thought of asking the logistics provider to decrease the charges of consignment or the insurance charges and all those things. But the scale of the impact was so huge that in practically the logistics provider would not agree. So just asking the logistics provider to reduce 15-20% in various components of the overall logistics charges didn't make sense, because it will reduce on paper, but practically the logistics provider will not agree for that. Probably we'll have to go to some other vendor for that. But in the scope of this case, we had this one vendor, we had the rate card given for a particular vendor, and we thought how we can create.
So you talked about, let's take insurance charge. You said,
yes,
logistics service provider would not agree for anything less than what he has quoted. So
yes,
what is your reference point? Did you check with any of the insurance companies like Tata AIG or any other company? What would be their insurance cost?
Sir, actually,
what makes you think that the logistics service provider would not reduce their insurance cost? What makes you feel that?
Sir, definitely he'll reduce if we are giving a lot of extra business to him. And
no, given the same amount of business, what makes you feel that he would not renegotiate on insurance?
Sir, it's
or
possible.
any other
It's definitely
component for
possible.
that matter.
Sir, it's definitely possible if we can have a discussion on this with the provider. Once or twice, we can probably persuade him.
So what would be so it's not a matter of persuasion, Vijay. It's a matter of it's a B2B business, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
there is a manufacturing company, there is a logistics service provider, who is again so it's like a B2B discussion, and it's going to be more on rational points where discussion could move forward. It's not about just pursuing. So what would we need to understand? When I say what are the levers available with us, which means we need to identify the rationale behind those negotiable points. How would you negotiate? And are you going to negotiate on all the 15 factors or 15 cost components, or pick up 3 or 4 cost components to renegotiate?
Yes,
and what
sir.
would be the logic behind that?
Yes, sir. And some of the components, such as the ones included in VAS, those were applied on a case-to-case basis. So we feel the exact reasoning on why we'll ask the logistics provider, we were not able to come up with strategies for particular VAS charges, since they were applied only on few cases.
Did you make any use of the product profile data?
No, sir. The J1,
the volumetric
J2,
calculations?
We calculated based on the chargeable weight directly. We did not calculate separately for different products, as from the invoice data, we are not able to distinguish which product is going where. As in, in a particular invoice docket, which products are included, we are not able to judge.
But on an overall basis, did you make any use of the product profile which was shared with, as part of the case?
No, sir. We in this presentation we did not use the product profile data to come up with the solution.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good attempt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, team OJAS, for this opportunity.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, all of the teams, for presenting your ideas to us. I think every idea that was presented had some of the other practical application that had many of us have seen in the current world. And Mohit sir has also highlighted some challenges that could be faced when it comes to implementation of each of these. Now that all the teams have presented their ideas, I request the team to have a word with sir in the jury room for the decisions to be announced for the winners and the runner-ups. Meanwhile, the results that are being announced and we finally come to the decision, I would like to request all of the participants to have, because you have experienced the entire OJAS experience for this, uh, for, for the Opspardha event, I like to request you to share your experiences and nominate OJAS for the prestigious B School competition for on D2C. Each one of you will be giving a link, and I request you to acknowledge it by writing a done in the chat once you're done with the votings. The results will be announced now itself in few moments when Sir is back with the final scores for all the teams. So please hold your horses and you can be in the meet itself, because this is when all of the information for the result and the future and the next step further will be announced.
Yeah. So is everyone there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first of all, congratulations to all the teams. I think you have made it a very good attempt to have a go at this case study. It's a real life case study. It's not something that has been drafted. Few names here and there would have been changed, but more or less it's a real life case study, and this is what you are going to face when you enter the industry, right? So take it as a learning experience. I think learning through case studies is one of very important tools that we understand what's happening in the industry and what are the kind of challenges we are going to face once we enter the corporate world, especially in the supply chain domain. So congratulations to all the teams. Few things I would like to share as a feedback and the way to go forward uh, on attaining more knowledge on the subject, or more on the domain, enhancing your domain expertise. I think there was a whole lot of data that was being given. So try to make use of what is that data about. What would be the significance of that data? What would be the dynamics of such a data? Try to understand. So whether it is a logistics service provider or you move into purchase domain or any of the domains, you are going to meet up with a lot of vendors. And the best way to understand your vendor is to understand his business model, right? So you need to understand this logistics service provider or this category of logistics service providers in the B2B domain. Now, I'll give you a practical example now that we are done away with all the teams. So one of the team members did suggest that we can make the minimum chargeable weight as 0. How does it impact? What is the business model of any of the B2B logistics service providers? So they operate through franchisees. They have a booking arm, they have a network arm, and they have a delivery arm. Now, all these delivery associates are attached to them as entrepreneurs, and they are franchisees in themselves, or they being paid. So they are being paid on per kg basis. The amount that they or the value of weight that they deliver, they are being paid on that. What is the value? So it varies anywhere from 50 paisa per kg to 2 rupees per kg. That's the range that these delivery guys are being paid, right? Now, let's say, you said reduce it from 15 kgs to 0 kgs. Let's say there is a consignment for 2 kgs, right? There is a consignment for 2 kgs, and on an average, the delivery guy is paid 1 rupee per kg. Do you think he is going to go and deliver your consignments because he is going to earn 2 rupees on that consignment? What will happen to that consignment then? It will lie in his hub. It won't get delivered. Unless, so he will also, he is an entrepreneur. He is going to, have his own say in his business. And he is going to aggregate till he has sufficient load in that particular pin code or nearby areas. And then, so what happens to the service level? So you could negotiate it to 0 kgs, but what happens to your service level? So we need to understand the business model of your supplier or your vendor to understand the dynamics of this industry, right? You are going to negotiate with the salesperson of that logistics service provider, and he might persuade his management for business sake to agree on these commercials. But is it in your favor? Right? And what would be the impact? If it is just going to save you a few bucks, then definitely not worth it. And if it is like 90% of your consignment lies between 0 to 15 kgs, you need to look at a vendor which is more capable or has the competence to deliver in that domain, which is typically your DTDCs of the world or the courier companies. They are more equipped to deliver 0 to 10 kgs kind of consignments rather than a B2B service provider like this. So you need to analyze your data very carefully, try to look at the vendor selection model. One of the teams did mention, but did not emphasize on multiple vendors. Somebody talked about, Northeast. Northeast is a difficult terrain, and believe me, these rates that were given as part of the case and which were real rates are probably the most competitive rates. And Northeast typically contributes less than 1% of your overall sales. Do you really need to tweak it? Right? And those are the most competitive rates available. Just for the sake of increasing or reducing the rates, you should not do that. So understand the business model, understand the impact of any decisions. During one of the presentations, I did mention, there are 15 to 20 components, cost components of this logistics contract. So focus and pick up a few high impact cost components where you need to tweak and build a rationale behind tweaking those. And knowledge is the key. We talked about environmental surcharge. Now, had somebody studied about what is the surcharge about and what are the exceptions to the surcharge, right? So, for example, just to give you a glimpse into environmental surcharge. So, depending on the vehicle size, any vehicle that enters Delhi has to pay environmental ECC, environmental compensation charge of anywhere between 2,300 rupees to 3,000 rupees per entry, right? And that's a cost that is being put by Government of India. But as I said, knowledge is the key. There are few exceptions to that. If you have a vehicle with CNG, the ECC is 0. So going back to, does your service provider have CNG vehicles flying in Delhi? Right? So we need to get deeper into the domain, try to understand what this cost is about. And if you were to talk to these guys, and believe me, all these service providers, or at least 90% of these service providers, understand the impact of ECC, and they have placed CNG vehicles for Delhi delivery. But to the customer, they charge ECC, citing this document from Government of India. So there is definitely a asymmetry of information that these guys have and you guys don't have. Right? So dwell deeper into each of those components, especially the high impact components, and understand the impact of or dynamics of which way this would move. Very strangely, none of the teams focus on the product profile, and that's probably the first thing that you should be looking at. The first thing, what is my product? What is the service provider trying to carry? What is the dynamics of the product profile? The higher the density of the material, the lower is the basic freight. Can I increase my CFT factor from 7 to 8? somebody said 7 to 0, it would only increase to the cost. So there was an opportunity to increase from 7 to 8 or probably 9. And that makes a rational logic for you to renegotiate on the basic freights, which is the single largest component of your overall logistics cost. I think if I were to do the calculation, probably 70-75% of the cost would be attributed to basic freight. 70 to 75% of the cost would have been attributed to basic freight. And CFT is the single component that could have made you renegotiate on this cost had you understood the impact of this. So I think we need to dwell a little deeper into the dynamics and the impact that these components can have on the overall cost structure. But at the same time, I also understand, coming from the B school, they hardly teach you anything about logistics. I was talking to Priyanshi and I said, I understand. So really good attempt, but I think as part of your internships or as part of your industry engagement program, you should try and focus a lot more on logistics as a component, because they hardly teach anything about logistics cost structure theoretically in the classrooms. So do focus on that. But yes, I am happy with the way you guys attempted. So that's it from my side. Are we ready with the results then? Priyanshi, can we go ahead and announce the results or anything else?
Sure, sir. You can.
Yes, sir. We request you to announce the results.
Okay. So there was a close competition between the two teams, the winning team as well as the runners-up. So the runners-up for this event is Team Phoenix from IIT Kharagpur. So a round of applause to the runners-up team. And the winning team, any guesses? So let me announce it, okay, since a lot of you are on mute. So the winning team is Team Netizens from NITI. So great attempt, guys, but congratulations to the winning teams, the runners-up team, and all those finalists who could not win this thing, but really happy to be part of this event and understand your thought processes, how you think about approaching a particular problem statement. So congratulations to everyone and the winners and the runners-up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hearty congratulations to both the winners and the runners-up. We thank the entire team, the back-end team of OJAS, for executing this event. Most importantly, I thank all the participants for putting out your ideas for the strategy of the case. But of course, the practicality of each of the idea and how feasible these are could not be possible without Mohit sir and his entire team effort, that is SCM Connect, for optimizing supply chain solutions for the companies. Moreover, we also like to thank OJAS 14 and the sponsor, Yes Securities, for the entire event for helping us execute OJAS 14 for 2022. I thank each one of you and your efforts that you have put for the team and the ideas. The runners-up and the winners are requested to stay back because we would like to have some other formalities to be completed. And all the very best to the other teams for the entire B-School journey.
We request Mohit sir to also stay back for a group picture.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Meanwhile, I would like to request the backend team to provide you with one of the links. That link will be useful for for sharing out to you your winner hampers. That is 20,000 to the winners and 10,000 to the runners-up. Kindly fill the form by the end of the day. It would be better if you fill it right now in the meet itself so that any queries can be addressed. And now we would like to request one of the winner pictures for the teams. Please turn on your videos.
We request the runner-ups also to turn their video on.
I've taken the picture. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Put the
Hello?
runner-up team.
Yeah.
Switch on their
Team.
videos.
The three of us are actually in the college mess because the timings were a bit clashing with the result timings. So we would not be able to switch on the camera. We sincerely apologize for that.
Is it possible to just go to a
Turn on
course
through
where
the camera, mobile camera as well. I think that works for us.
Okay. Mobile camera. I think one of us can try.
It's just for your memory. Otherwise, it's okay. The teams are requested to fill the forms.
Okay, I think team, they might not be able to turn on their cameras. Let's just.
Yeah, that's all right. It's fine. Okay.
Mohit sir, we thank you from the bottom of our heart for providing all the critical comments to all the teams. It is really, being in a B school, it becomes difficult to see the practical and the larger picture of the problem that is being presented to us. But this is something that we need to bridge the gap between academia and the companies that we'll be joining. There is no better way than talking to someone as expert as you are, because you have a very rich experience, and because you're the director of the supply chain vertical itself, we definitely had the best of the advice from you. Would you like to have anything else to say for us, sir?
Yeah, Priyanshi, I think very well managed event, and everything went on very smoothly. So I congratulate the backend team to have organized this event. And yes, all the participants were good, and they tried to make the best use of this particular case study. The idea is to keep on learning from experiences, from case studies. And case studies, I think, are the best way to understand the practical aspects. And it always helps to be participating in such events. So I think more such events should be organized, and I've been seeing this trend across the B schools. A lot of B schools are now turning to supply chain events and supply chain case study competitions and so on, which is a very positive part for this domain. And I think we are moving in the right direction. That's what I can comment.
Thank you all the teams for participating. Whatever queries you have, you can reach out to us if you have any. And thank you, sir, for being a part of the event. I would now like to close the event with a word of thanks. OJAS has been sincerely thankful for the ideas, for the participation, and we would like to continue the legacy that has been specifically for the operations vertical for Opspardha, that has been continuing for so many years. I hope we continue with more such events in the future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, team. Thanks for
Thank you, team.